You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Crime, corruption, and criminal justice. AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce, is shining a light on these topics here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in a luncheon that's looking at how these affect Jamaica's trade and investment potential. I'm Elon Parkinson. Let's take a look at the highlights.
One of the things that I realize is that having these forums, it provides us with an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. And all members should give your organization a round of applause. Put your hands together for it. For weeks, I was talking about business unusual. For weeks, that was the last one on the economy that you guys had. And I was in cocktail conversation sounding smarter than I am just by virtue of having been in the room. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. I'm going to apologize for the National Security Minister, Dr. Horace Chang. He did intend to be here, but he was called at the last minute to Parliament. I believe he has a parliamentary committee that he must be at, so they've summoned him. The numbers are important in these committees to make quorum and to participate in discussions at Gordon House, so he won't be with us today. The DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, is here. Thank you very much for being here with us today, as is Dirk Harrison, the acting head of the Corruption Prosecution Division at the Integrity Commission. Always glad to have Professor Anthony Clayton, a respected criminologist, here with us today. Jason Fraser is the country rep of the USAID. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing their presentations later today. At this time, I'm going to invite Alison Peart, the president of AmCham of Jamaica, to give the official welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. You know, we look so officious and so quiet. It's very, very important business, but I'm hoping today you're going to learn a lot more. You're going to leave here understanding more about some of the issues and, more importantly, with some solutions. Because it's one thing to speak about our issues, but if we don't find a solution, we're just a talk shop. And I love Nationwide on the radio, but we don't just want to talk. We want to come up with some solutions. So as the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Jamaica, we thought it very important. We talk about how wonderful the economy was. Our last session was business unusual. But if we have crime issues, if people Jamaicans don't feel comfortable going about their daily lives, if our foreign investors don't feel comfortable, if our children, who are our future, have issues, where are we as a nation? So we thought it very important to bring together a panel that would engage in the dialogue about crime, corruption, criminal justice. How does it affect our trade and investment? Because it makes no sense to talk about our GDP growing or our debt to GDP if we're dying. It makes no sense if our future is tied to crime. So this dialogue is very, 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 very important, and I'm very happy you're here with us.
Okay, the question today is how much crime and corruption and a dysfunctional justice system are actually inhibiting the development of Jamaica and inward investment. Because we don't just have one problem, we have quite a complex array of problems. And it's quite hard to know how much we should attribute to any one of these and how much any one of these is contributing to what has historically been a very low rate of growth and significant difficulties in attracting inward investment and retaining domestic capital and retaining human capital. These are the headline ones. We have one of the highest rates of violence in the world. We have a large number, a significant number Of gangs, about 80% of our homicide are gang-related. The rest are primarily domestic violence. So the fact that we have a large number of gangs is clearly a major factor in maintaining one of the world's highest levels of homicide. There are fundamental challenges still in our system of governance. As I'll be going on to say in a few minutes, we have people in public life who help to create this problem with gangs and high levels of violence, and that link has never been yet severed, and that is still a challenge that we have yet to face. What, of course, that does is it undermines the moral authority of government. If you have a situation where all the bad guys are out there and everybody in government is honest and competent, it's not really very difficult to deal with the problems of crime. The problem is when the boundaries between the two are blurred, and when you have criminals who are getting high-level political protection. At that point, it's much, much harder to deal with the issues. Of course, what that feeds is a culture of cynicism, low trust, and that has a great deal to do with sustaining a high level of violence. In any country where you see that people do not trust the police and do not trust the justice system, they're much more likely to have recourse to violence to solve their issues and disputes. So it's partly reflecting the fact that we've still got deep weaknesses in our system of governance. But let's put this in a little context. There's only one demographic for whom violence is the leading cause of premature morbidity, which is young males, late teens, early 20s. For every other demographic, it's actually cheeseburgers that are more likely to kill you. We've got issues with, like every other country, with steeply rising rates of non-communicable diseases. And we can't also forget the fact that we have perennial challenges with energy security, increasingly with water security, which is related, because years ago we made the decision that everybody must be on a piped water supply, which means that we're now committed to a program of pumping water up hillsides, which means that if our energy system goes down, our water system goes down too. In hindsight, perhaps that wasn't a very good decision. So we've got issues with energy, water security, and more generally food and access to resources. We live in a seismically active part of the world. We live in the hurricane belt. There's challenges with emerging exotic diseases, and of course we've got a background issue really serious now, as people have started to realize with climate change. You may have heard that this summer is the hottest ever recorded in Jamaica's history. And in fact, there's now real grounds for concern that we've gone past an irrevocable point, and that we will not ever revert back to the low, make a permanent adjustment to.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
One of our highest priorities of the U.S. government in Jamaica is to work with our counterparts to interdict Jamaican and Caribbean-based transnational criminal activity, including narcotics and arms trafficking, trafficking in persons, and financial fraud targeting U.S. citizens. The U.S. government has also invested heavily in supporting anti-corruption initiatives with the civil society and Jamaican government, as well as supported improvements in the justice system. In total, the U.S. government invests about $12 million in security-related programming annually, which does not include all the various partnerships and collaborations that our various U.S. government agencies have with their counterparts. In fact, USAID Jamaica just advertised a broad agency announcement to co-design our flagship community violence prevention activity with key stakeholders such as the government, academia, and private sector. This unique co-creation approach encourages key stakeholders to co-create and deliver the services that are vital to prevent youth crime and violence at the community level. Law enforcement and criminal justice are important to controlling crime, as we all know, and corruption. But we also have to address the underlying social challenges that both cause and contribute to crime. Within the broad range of U.S. cooperation on crime, and this is where USAID comes in, we partner with the government and civil society on a range of programs to address the root causes of crime in Jamaica. So in the area of community safety and security, and building upon past successes with community-based policing, USAID focuses on the strengthening of community-based and civil society organizations, the promotion of community-driven activities, the development of long-term champions of a culture of lawfulness, and the enhancement of ministries, departments, and agencies of the state to be more community-oriented institutions. In this way, we believe that we contribute to building safer communities, strengthening social cohesion, and improving civic engagement participation. USAID also works with holistic youth-friendly approaches that aims to assist at-risk youth in becoming active citizens through the engagement of different social, educational, behavioral, and recreational activities. This approach includes three main areas regarding youth involved in criminality: prevention, intervention, and rehabilitation, including diversion activities as alternatives to traditional incarceration for first-time offenders. Youth also develop skills through educational programs which introduce them to fundamental concepts in business, economics, individual accountability, and entrepreneurship. USAID expects that life skills and technical training will increase opportunities for at-risk youth to work within the legitimate economy, thereby reducing the likelihood of involvement in gang and criminal activity. In Jamaica, relationships with key public sector, private sector, and donor agency partners are being leveraged to create programs to build skills and to identify work options for youth. USAID also works in the youth remandee centers, which includes case management follow-up to facilitate at-risk youth acquiring job and education opportunities when they are released. In the area of corruption, the Combating Corruption in Jamaica project has not only built public demand for more effective action against corruption through awareness campaigns, but has also provided training to government and civil society partners to build capacity and increase advocacy. The project is expected to have an impact on the nation's capacity and the ability to effectively control instances of and attitudes towards corruption in general and political corruption in particular. So what's the role of the private sector in addressing the root causes? That's why we're all here today. Many of you are representing private sector organizations. How can the private sector be a key partner in addressing some of these root causes? Obviously, many of you are part of the community, and so you have an interest. Your companies are often affected by the high rates of crime and corruption. So it's important that government, international partners who support government, NGOs, and the private sector work together to address these issues. We've all been to various forums on issues surrounding crime in Jamaica. I think the private sector here needs to continue to ask itself what it is doing to address the issue. Clearly, advocacy is important to press for resources, accountability, and support in combating crime. But there's much more that can be done to invest in communities to make them safer and create opportunities for the next generation to be prosperous. Looking ahead, we welcome the opportunity to increase our engagement with the private sector on these challenges because of the energy and innovation that they typically bring to the table. USAID is a learning agency, and we are constantly exploring how to improve our work and increase our impact. So as we streamline our programs and look for new strategic partners, we invite the private sector to partner with us as we both work towards the common goal of helping Jamaicans thrive.
there's this sense of a godlike syndrome that during some transactions, an oversight body must lap its tail or virtually hold its corner in the name of investment. There are different roles for each stakeholder. Each must stay in their lane and accept criticism when constructively made. On the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, potential investors, in fact, should be happy that the business environment observes the rule of law and that democracy flourishes with built-in checks and balances. If I were an investor about to enter Jamaica, it's incumbent on me and my handlers to look out for red flags and indicators of the environment. I name a few on a list that is not exhaustive. 1, determine the role of the oversight body. It must be effective, efficient, fearless, and it must be respected. What, if any, comment does the oversight body have to say on a process or an investment opportunity that you wish to enter? The engagement, ladies and gentlemen, of investors and investor confidence, existing and thriving, must be viewed on a virtual 2-lane highway. That is a 2-way street with rules and guidelines being applicable. 2, does the police service support and protect local and non-Jamaican community members? Do they communicate with all persons? Are they accessible at all times? Maintain a presence that the visitor or citizen believes and recognizes that if they do wrong, they'll be detected. But lines of communication must always be in place. For too long in this blessed country, the notion exists that unless someone knows you and you not knowing them, nothing will happen. That needs to end. In a time of real emergency, the joke is told, unless you have on speed dial a member of the police force, the response time to a complaint is sometimes unacceptable. Another thing that I would think an investor would look for, there must be a criminal justice system that is efficient and effective, and we must congratulate the learned Chief Justice for the renaissance and the role of the DPP's office in the renaissance that is taking place now. But we must also have financial services, a banking system, healthcare facilities. They must be adequate, to name a few components. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, on Jamaica's stock exchange record, Michael Reagan, writing in Bloomberg Business Week, January 18, 2019, states the Jamaican Stock Exchange is the world's best performing. Its outperformance over the past 5 years is even more striking. Jamaica's stocks have surged almost 300%, more than quadrupling the next best performing national benchmark and septupling the S&P Standard & Poor's 500's advance. I make bold to say that the very important successes must be highlighted, with all the negatives on crime and violence reported in the last 48 hours in Jamaica. Also, the awards in the tourism sector must also be celebrated. However, we must do better. Ladies and gentlemen, what are some of the solutions? Government agencies must work together all the time and set aside jealousies and petty matters which have no place in a professional setting. Interagency cooperation and collaboration must be emphasized and practiced. We must build bridges and stop tearing down, emasculating, and ridiculing persons. The fact that you do not agree is no reason to disrespect. Professionalism is non-negotiable. We must have a review of the timelines to review governance structures. Oftentimes, pieces of legislation give you 3 years to review a legislation. You see in 1 year, nothing is happening. The parliamentary caucus needs to do something about that. We must enhance whistleblowing regimes and encourage the discourse, changing the discourse to, in my words, informer for live. Stop saying informer for dead, informer for live. I must admit, I'm an informer. I'm a proud one. I'm an informer. Tell me something today, I'm going to tell the police tomorrow. We need to modernize the law enforcement units and bring outstanding laws into operation. We need public education to sensitize the world that the perception of corruption or actual is not a reflection of the overwhelming majority of law-abiding Jamaicans. We need to ensure that the police and our oversight bodies work to regain public trust. The police must maintain presence not just in hotspots, but also generally. It will help to rebuild issues of insecurity. I pause here as I listen to Professor Clayton. In the last month, I visited Cayman. The police carry no guns. A year before, I went to Turks and Caicos. The police had no guns. I visited Grenada a few times. The police had no guns. They have their problems, but I felt safe. I am walking in this, my beloved country, and we're turning and looking behind us every minute. But our Caribbean neighbors, and Professor Clayton showed us the figures, I feel safe. We need to look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, as I close, I reiterate that the government of Jamaica, the ministries, the departments, the statutory bodies, to name a few, must work united to create that package, that which is seen by the outside world, with all the various components and elements that they look at, and which they consider, and which will have the effect to harness growth and encourage investor confidence. But most importantly, we must leave our partners with the belief that integrity is non-negotiable. Honesty is paramount, not by word of mouth, but by our actions. And despite our problems, crime and corruption, that they can and humbly should consider investing in our country to bring about change for good. Acknowledging that the improvement of the basic standards of life may have the effect of changing behavior, but I readily admit we can't legislate for good behavior.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
In respect of what it takes to inspire confidence, I'm a plain speaker, and I will say, I believe that what is happening in our country, education is the key. I believe that a lot of our children, some of those who come from environments where they are victims of poor and dysfunctional parenting, we need to reintroduce civics in all its forms back within the schools from the time of the basic school, because there are a lot of our children. People complain that, okay, are the schools not doing enough? But they may go to school, the teachers try their best, and they go back into an environment that is like a black hole of nothingness, because there's no value system, no values, positive values and attitudes. And yet if you take that child and you put that child in another environment, you have intervention, positive intervention, you would be surprised to see the beautiful diamond coming from the rough. So I'm really a big believer in education. Now, another pet peeve of mine is that, and I prosecute police officers, I do not subscribe to the throwing the baby with the bathwater approach. Everybody knows their functions best. But I am not a public official who believes, unless it is necessary in the interest of justice, to make gratuitous comments in terms of seeking to tear down my colleagues anywhere. And I am not into using speculation to put out there to join the call for crucify him, crucify her in the public domain, where you have the court of public opinion demanding, just like the little old ladies who were knitting at the time in the Tale of Two Cities and saying for the noblemen, chop off their heads. I am not into that. At the Director of Public Prosecution's Office, we deal with two things: the law and evidence. Personal emotion, personalities, we are not into it. So even if the court of public opinion or any other opinion would like to see the guillotined head of an individual on a platter, if there is no evidence to prosecute, to mount a viable prosecution, then as a matter of law, we have to say so. And I will say, and it's the first time I'm saying it publicly, first time, and I say it with the greatest of respect, that this is why on occasion, when I've been asked privately, I have registered privately a concern when you have no firewall between agencies that both investigate and prosecute. Because if you are not careful, you run away in the court of public opinion, and the court of law has to catch up. And by the time it gets to court, after a lot of reputational damage has been done, when you look at it and the defense counsel gets up and says, they are putting the prosecution in limine to prove what is there, the judge asks, and when you pare away what is there, there's nothing there as a matter of law. So sometimes in the court of public opinion, the members of the public would want to see one thing, but both the police and I know that in the court of law, it's either you have to have cogent, credible, reliable, admissible evidence. If you don't have it, then no matter how egregious the conduct of an individual is, then you don't have a case. Then you have to look at the second layer in terms of governance and accountability. And this is where public opinion, civil society can force the government of the day to make sure that all the particular oversight agencies, that they have teeth, that they are well structured, and that the will, the political will is there to make sure that the teeth are not rickety in the oversight agencies, but they can stand up. In other words, if you put a piece of cane in the mouth of the teeth of that oversight agency, the teeth won't come out. It is the cane that will suffer damage.
Riveting perspectives and indeed sobering statistics coming from the AmCham empaneled team here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. You're watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
Hello there. Thanks for stopping by for your favorite Friday TV program, Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Audrey Williams, and I'll be taking you through the pages today, so stay with us.
Jamaica Eye can help you protect our citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicaeye.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, August 9. Construction has started on 623 housing units at Shooters Hill in St. Catherine. The Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ, has signed a joint venture agreement with Right Solutions Development Limited to construct the homes. The signing took place at Jamaica House on Thursday. The development will include 100 one-bedroom starter units selling for $7.6 million each. 200 two-bedroom, one-bathroom units will be built and sold for $11.5 to $12.5 million. Persons can also pay $13.5 to $14.5 million to purchase one of the 220 two-bedroom, two-bathroom homes. And 103 split-level units accommodating 3 bedrooms will go for $17.5 million each.
So I think these are very affordable. I can see the young nurse, the young policeman, the young university graduate immediately just waiting to get one of these.
The company's Office of Jamaica, COJ, has launched its newly created Electronic Business Registration Form, EBRF, to allow for business name reservation and registration online. The Electronic Business Registration Form was officially launched by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Wednesday.
The ease with which you can register a company now is mind-blowing. What does this mean? Well, it means, first of all, that Jamaica as a potential place for international businesses, we have now gone up a step further. We have almost completed legislation to create the International Business Center here.
The online platform replaces the COJ's one-stop-shop paper-based Superform that was introduced in 2014. It will facilitate 24-hour business registrations at the agency's website, orcjamaica.com, from any location globally. It was developed through the collaborative effort of the Cabinet Office and Public Sector Transformation Unit with funding support from the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB. 147 men and women have been added to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, following a graduation ceremony at the Harman Barracks campus on Wednesday. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang encouraged the members of graduating Batch 120 to stand firm in defense of what is good and right.
Your successful completion of the training at the National Police College is a true reflection of your sense of purpose, strength of character, and unwavering dedication to Jamaica.
The security minister meanwhile revealed that a new selection process was being looked at to attract officers with specialized skill sets in areas such as cybersecurity and electronics. This is being spearheaded by Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson under a review of the human resource requirements of the force. Dr. Chang says the objective is to identify the quantity and quality of officers needed and to transform the culture and philosophy of the JCF.
We will need some 4,000 territorial personnel and additional personnel for the non-geographical formation. The goal is to train very soon approximately at least 1,600 recruits on an annualized basis, that we can attract more young men and young women of their character to ensure Jamaica will have a strong, capable police force.
Minister Chang says the recruitment is expected to increase the officer corps from 3 to 7% of the force. The National Works Agency, NWA, is in the process of replacing the Paradise Bridge in Westmoreland through a $48 million contract. The original structure was officially closed in October 2018 as it was deemed unsafe for vehicular access. The existing century-old arch bridge is being demolished to facilitate the new structure, which will be equipped with retaining walls and sidewalks to improve pedestrian safety. The approach roads will also be reinstated with asphaltic concrete overlay. Community Relations Officer for the NWA's Western Region, Janelle Ricketts, says the agency is now in the preliminary stages of work to construct a reinforced single-cell concrete box culvert at the location. As a result, motorists traveling along the Ferris Cross to Dunbar's River Roadway in Westmoreland have now been detoured onto a temporary roadway. Ms. Ricketts says the detour was constructed to allow commuters to remain on the existing route for the duration of the 6-month contract. The temporary roadway is, however, restricted to use by only small vehicles, as it is not able to accommodate large units. Operators of trucks, trailers, and other large vehicles should instead use the alternative routes through Petersfield or Sweet River. And finally, the Kingston Public Hospital, KPH, has benefited from a donation of bed linen from the Chinese Benevolent Association, CBA. The association's president, Robert Hugh, handed over 580 pieces of sheets and pillowcases to Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton and executive members of the KPH recently. It represents a third of a $1 million donation of sheets and pillowcases the CBA is making to hospitals. KPH's Chief Executive Officer, Colleen Wright, says the donation means the hospital will be able to manage its budget for purchasing and cleaning bed linen in a better way. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Come down. Well, this is a real business?
I should think so. You don't see them dressed nice.
Look at me well-dressed criminals. Let me see, because you can check for a registered business on COJ website. You know that, right?
We can check online?
Yeah, man, things up now. You can check for a registered business on the Company's Office of Jamaica website. So many know things.
Yeah.
Transformation is happening across the public sector. Many services are now available online. We are building a better public service for all. Brought to you by the Transformation Implementation Unit.
So many wish they could visit our shores. We live where they vacation. Brand Jamaica beckons all from the four corners of the earth.
Well, as a Jamaican, I have great pride in selling it. You know, your pride that you sell Jamaica with is something that it rolls off. Jamaica has so much to offer, and every time I have the privilege of bringing an executive down to Jamaica, an executive from an airline or a tour operator or a travel agency, and you take them across the country, you know, the pride that they said, wow, I can't imagine, especially when it's their first time. Wow, I love this.
Build it. Cherish it. Our wealth is Brand Jamaica.
During her recent sectoral presentation in Parliament, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, revealed government's plans to further develop the sectors under her portfolio. Here's a recap of what's started and still in store for this year.
Sweet Jamaica is now on the move as we leverage culture, gender, entertainment and sport for sustainable development.
In order to ensure that our local athletes have access to world-class training facilities, 2 of the country's major sporting complexes will be renovated, the Trelawney and National Stadiums. The projects, which are valued at approximately $40 million, should bring both facilities up to international standards. As that is underway, those who do great deeds in those stadiums are being honored. 2 more sports stars will receive statues this year for their outstanding contribution to sports.
This year, during Heritage Week, we will salute another of our stars, Veronica Campbell-Brown, another outstanding woman of Jamaican sport. We're finalizing arrangements for the installation of the statue of Asafa Powell later on in the year as well.
Advancing the cultural sector is of utmost importance to the government, which is why the National Cultural and Creative Industries Council has been established.
The council, which resides in my ministry, is now poised to take on the collation of data on the industry. This is essential for decision making. We have been speaking about the paucity and inaccuracy of data for a very long time, and so we are ensuring that this is done.
The council will be charged with establishing a digital distribution and promotion platform for Jamaican music, video, and fashion, as well as a Kingston Creative Media Village, Creative Skills Council, a culture and creative industries fund for Jamaica.
You're just walking up and down like my auntie Rachel said. Keep by your mouth, the girl tree. Make your fool so lies. Spread out yourself.
To celebrate the anniversary of her 100th birthday, 100 days of island-wide celebrations have been announced for Jamaican cultural icon Louise Bennett Coverley.
Ms. Lou will be celebrated as a social commentator, poet and advocate, and in particular as chief exponent and proponent of the Jamaican language.
Entertainment is a big part of our culture, and this is why government is putting various strategic measures in place to further develop the sector.
We have developed a project in the Zozo community of Denham Town titled Social Inclusion Through Entertainment, by which we have trained 45 youths in life skills, including bartending and events planning.
Furthermore, 3 new entertainment districts have been declared by government in Portmore. These are Waves Beach, Fort Clarence, and Helshaw. The zones are areas in which any legal entertainment and sports activity can be staged any time of day or night unhindered, as long as the organizers are mindful of the historical value of such sites. The ministry with responsibility for gender affairs is also moving expeditiously to put the sexual harassment legislation in place. The bill outlines the types of conduct that constitute sexual harassment and prohibits certain related conduct. But that's not all. Government has even more plans to end sexual abuse of women and children in Jamaica.
You will recall that we purchased a property last year, and we are just about completing the work on that space. At the same time, I want to say thanks to the Minister of Finance, who provided us with funds to purchase 2 other properties. And I am very happy to indicate that we have identified 1 property in St. Thomas, which we are about to sign off on the purchase. And we are looking at another property in Hanover. So we will have a shelter mid-island, a shelter in the west, and a shelter in the east. So, Mr. Speaker, my ministry is committed to lead this unified and unifying cultural force in shaping our global destiny as a nation of power and global achievement. In all this, we are guided by the words of Marcus Garvey. God and nature first made us what we are. And then out of our own creative genius, we make ourselves what we want to be.
Living in Jamaica is an experience that you cannot put in words. There's an energy in the atmosphere that just feels good. There's so many aspects of Jamaica that I think makes it second to none. The best food, the best music, the best people. We can go on and on about the good things about living in Jamaica. There's a parish in Jamaica called Portland. I think that's one of my favorite places to be. It's one of the most nature-oriented parishes, and I love the nightlife in Kingston. Once you come here and you get that connection with the people, that connection with the food and the music and just the lifestyle is something that you'll always remember. People should visit Jamaica because I'm sure 100% that it is the place to be on planet Earth. You need to come here and you'll get an experience that you will never forget.
now time for your favorite segment of the show, School Zone. In today's episode, we highlight how students at the Herbert Morrison Technical High School in St. James are putting their skills in engineering to good use.
All right, Anna Hugh, would you like to demonstrate how rains along a ridge? Excellent job, Anna Hugh.
This is the augmented reality sandbox created by the engineering club at the Herbert Morrison Technical High School. This is one of the 5 projects that will be shown in today's episode of School Zone. Stay tuned after the break for more.
School Zone, School Zone, School Zone, School Zone, School Zone, School Zone.
Welcome to another episode of School Zone. As you heard earlier, we're here at the Herbert Morrison Technical High School in St. James, where we're learning about a few projects by the Engineering Club. First up on the program is the AR Sandbox. And joining me is the geography teacher here, Mrs. King-Coke, who will be telling us more about this.
The AR Sandbox is actually a technological tool that casts or projects virtual reality onto sand. So it is actually a simulation of topographical features that you can actually manipulate as you move the sand. It is one of the most student-centered tools we have at Herbert Morrison. Students can actually interact and move the sand, and at the same time they can learn and have fun. Before we get to the actual secret of how it operates, there are some things that I would like to show you in terms of how the tool is used. We usually have flat maps that we use. We call them ordnance survey maps. Those maps are two-dimensional. And students have limitations where those maps are concerned. Where the AR Sandbox is concerned, students can actually interact with the box and create the features that they would normally see on a two-dimensional map. That excites them, and that also enhances and complements the geography as a learning tool.
Really, it's really simple. It's only 3 main pieces of equipment. An infrared camera that we call the eyes, a projector, and a computer that compiles the information. So the camera judges the depth, which sends that information back to the computer. The computer processes this and sends it back to the projector, which shows you what you see here. And seeing as we use the computer, we can put different functions on. So different keys have different functions. For instance, the 1 key would introduce more liquid to the environment, while the 6 key would change the type of liquid. So we can change it from water to lava to green moss to snow, back to water.
So Ms. Clark, here we have the Herbie Go-Kart. It was a project that was started a couple of years back by other students of the engineering club, but wasn't finished because of financial strains that they had. So I and others finished the go-kart as best as possible. As you can see here, we have here the gas pedal, which accelerates the vehicle, the kart, when we apply pressure on the pedal. Then we have the brake pedal, which is used to apply friction to the wheels, which slows down the kart. Then we have the steering, which steers either left or right. Now around here, we have the engine. This is a Honda GX 120 6.5 horsepower engine. And this kart is a dead axle go-kart, which means that it is run by only one wheel. Over here, we have the remote kill switch, which I programmed myself, which is used to turn off or turn on the kart from a remote distance. The kill switch is more like a safety device. As we're speaking about safety, here you can see we have our helmet, and safety always comes first. And I like to add that the main purpose of this go-kart is to help persons of the Herbert Morrison Technical High School to learn how to drive, so that when they leave high school they can have their driver's license.
Mr. Cook?
Hi, Ms. Clark.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, ma'am.
All right, so we're now at the buzzer system. And Mr. Cook, the president of the engineering club and teacher here, will be telling us more about this.
This buzzer circuit here is No necessarily special buzzer circuit, but it has an additional feature. It has a referee here, basically, which basically indicates who buzzed first. So if Team Red buzzed first, that signal is sent to this circuit board, which turns on the red light. When the red light is turned on, it prevents the blue light to turn on, whether or not the blue team is pressing. So, Ms. Clark, we're going to give you a practical demonstration of how these circuit boards work. Team Blue, ready? Yes, sir. Team Red, ready? Yes, sir. Listen for me carefully. What is the capital of St. James? Obviously. Team Blue is up first. Team Blue.
Yes, sir. Montego Bay.
Montego Bay, York, Montego Bay is correct. We decided that we wanted to make a board, and make a board that is futuristic, an upgrade from what we had before. We also made it on a next basis. As a teacher, I wanted to have students to do activities, creative activities, because there are times when the activities is boring in their view. So I wanted students to get a feel of what it's like to be on School Challenge Quiz in my class without being on School Challenge Quiz.
Have you ever heard about 3D printing, sublimation printing, and laser engraving? If not, today's your lucky day. We have examples of all three that were produced by the Engineering Club, and we'll be joined by Conrad, who will be showing us examples of these. Over to you, Conrad.
Okay, thank you. So here we have different products and items that were created in the laser engraver. So we have different keychains and necklaces, even little award plaques. These were all done in the laser engraver, which, as its name suggests, uses a laser to chip away at the materials put in, which is usually acrylic or Solitex. Here we have medals that were given out at Sports Day. These were put into the heat press, which is a sublimation machine, and it basically transfers the gas to a solid, which is displayed in the center. Here we have one of my favorite things, the edgelit lamp. Now these edgelit lamps are two parts. So the main part is the acrylic and the second part is the base. Now the acrylic is done in the laser engraver like all our acrylic pieces, and the bases. Some of them are pre-owned, some of them were purchased, while some of them were created by our wonderful 3D printer. Now this 3D printer can do a marvel of things. It can create little keychains and trinkets, it can create full-blown machine parts, and it can even create functioning toy vehicles. What it does is it melts a small wire of filament and through a little spout takes its time and works its way up, printing from bottom to top. I'd like to add that these pins and keychains and trinkets that we make, we don't just keep them for ourselves, obviously. We sell them to the school at a discounted cost, and we sell them to other schools and institutions at lower costs.
Thanks again, Conrad. So we only have one more interesting project for you, and that's the virtual tour of the Herbert Morrison Technical High School. And our friend here, Anthony, will be taking you through that tour.
Today we are showing an interactive simulation of the school. It incorporates different things from different members of the engineering club. Today we have Kobe Jordan. He's our 3D modeler. He designs our characters. What he has here is the principal he's working on, the principal of our school, Mr. Adams. All right, we also have Marcus Cohen. He works on the full model of the school, all the details of the school. He went out and got pictures and measurements of the entire school and then recreated it in a 3D software. Then we have Kevon Lee, our texture. He takes the models and applies realistic looking materials to them to make it look as realistic as possible, having all the scratches and dents of the school. And I do the programming. It allows for the character movements. As you can see, you can walk around the 3D space as much as you want. You'll see the AI, like different students in the school walking around, going about their daily lives. The code allows them to move around the 3D space. After I get the models from KJ, our vice president and 3D modeler, you can see the school is to scale. As you can see, when you stand up, you are to scale to the school. So are the characters in the simulation. Here is the document center for our school. Down there, the area that we're looking is the visual arts area, and over there is the TD rooms. So you can see it's a fairly accurate model of the school.
Boy, it's so sad that we have to close the program for today, but I know you will all agree with me that we had a fulsome time here at Herbert Marson Technical High School. But just before we close the program, we have a quick question we want to ask the president and founder of the 3-year engineering club. Why all of this? I've never seen anything like this. They're cut above the rest. Why?
As a teacher of electrical technology, I have seen a lot of talent in my years of teaching. I just think that it is my duty to help bring forth that talent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cook, and all the best. I have great expectations for the club. And that's it. To have your school featured in School Zone, simply email me at sclark@gis.gov.jm. I'm looking forward to see your email. Until then, take care.
School zone, school zone, school zone, school zone, school zone, school zone.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
This is the final stop in today's magazine. Thanks for journeying with us. To watch today's program again, simply visit our website, jis.gov.jm. Don't forget that you're able to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Audrey. Have a great weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Violence is bad. Violence against our innocent little children is terrible. Pretending not to notice when we know or suspect that a child is suffering is awful and morally wrong. In the words of the great Nelson Mandela, there can be no keener realization of a nation's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Think about that for a second. I have a voice. It's one of my gifts. I intend to use it on behalf of our children. No more violence against our children. Make your move to stop violence against our children right now. No more. No more. No more.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Refuge Key is a relatively small island in the Port Royal mangroves, but it's unique because it's entirely detached from the rest of the mangroves. And so it is a haven for birds. Refuge Key was inundated by garbage, decades of garbage, especially on the North Shore, where it's against the Kingston Harbor. And because of that, the layers of garbage formed a berm, preventing water exchange on and off the quay.
The quay was dying.
Mangrove forests need flushing. They need seawater or river water to flow through the forest. It removes excess salt, it removes toxins, the plants produce toxins, and it also helps with aeration, helps to get oxygen to the roots. And so the middle of the quay, the forest was dying.
That's when Professor Weber and her team stepped in to do what they could to help. But saving Refuge Key wouldn't be easy.
In the initial cleaning, we spent about 6 weeks cleaning Refuge Key. Most of the solid waste coming from Kingston and other areas. Plastic bottles, styrofoam, crates, anything, plastic bags, you name it. Refrigerators, TVs, you can find on Refuge Key. For the duration of 6 weeks, we took off over 8,400 bags of garbage. We also took off stuff that couldn't be bagged itself. Most of this garbage, it was more compounded, the buildup of garbage over time. So it's probably about 3 to 4 feet of garbage. So once you took off the top layer, there was actually more. We actually did a cleaning of a meter square, and it took about 30 minutes to clean just a meter square because the amount of garbage in that one tiny area. So it took us about 30 minutes. And that gave us an indication of the time frame of cleaning itself, how long it would take, and an estimate of the amount of garbage roughly we could take off Refuge Key. And as I said before, we took off over 8,400 bags with also stuff that couldn't be bagged itself, that we had to just carry by vessel around a pickup site. And the fishers, they would stay 7-8 hours on the quay cleaning every day for the 6-week period.
We haven't had garbage causing a problem like this before. A lot of mangrove forests die because they build roads, they build or they dump sediment in the area, and that prevents the exchange of water. This mangrove forest, the berm was made by garbage. And so we hope to get the trees back. The problem with a mangrove island, once the trees die, once the forest dies, the rest of the system going to erode. There is nothing there but the mangrove plant to sustain the island.
Jamaicans oftentimes fail to make the connection between their improper garbage disposal and the impact on the environment. But the fact that the mangroves were dying meant that a crucial ecosystem was at risk.
The whole forest system in the Port Royal area helped to protect the Port Royal Spit, the narrow strip of land that really create Kingston Harbor. And so the mangroves form a natural windbreaker. The integrity of the land is maintained by the roots, the branching roots. So once you start to compromise the mangrove system, you can lose the protection of the palisadoes. The biodiversity in the area is also very high, and the fisheries in the area, and that is what concerns the fishers. They collect oysters directly from the mangrove roots. And they also know that the area is a nursery for big fish. So adults go in there and spawn the juvenile fish.
You can track them back to a juvenile or baby stage to these lagoons in these areas, right around Refuge Key and in the lagoon areas, because their survival rate is much higher. Being in here, they can hide, they can camouflage themselves, versus being out in a more pelagical area, the open water itself, where they can be eaten very quickly. So it's very important. It's a nursery ground for most of these commercial fish species.
As the plastic waste continues to choke the harbor, it's slowly killing livelihoods.
When they throw a net and pull, they get a lot of materials that is just damaging the net, snaring the net in some cases. When you have things like freezers and old tires, and they are trawling, they're going to damage their fishing gear. So direct effects are those to the fishers. It costs them money. You're driving your engine and you're going to damage your prop on something. So those, they will tell you, are problems.
Well, the pollution cannot kill the wildlife in the mangrove, especially the oysters. It cannot destroy the root of the mango. It can stifle them, mango bush them from grow. And it harbor rat also, that kind of parasite, lizard, and a lot of things. If a fisherman to try to sit on it, and by the time he pick up, he get more garbage than fish, So the garbage kind of we have big role.
Oysters filter feed, and when the plastic stays in the mangroves for long enough, it fragments. It breaks up into tiny pieces. It doesn't disappear, it just fragments into food-sized pieces. So I work on plankton, and plankton are like a millimeter or less. When the plastic fragments get to plankton size, it gets eaten by oysters, and fish as well. And so right up there against the mangrove roots where the oysters grow, you have the greatest concentration of plastic. One, the oysters are going to decline. And two, they're going to be contaminated. People really shouldn't eat them until that place is cleaned up. And so the fishers know this. They're getting less material, they're getting less fishing and fishable resources in the mangroves, and they know that the place is so dirty that they really shouldn't be fishing there.
Without garbage, the fish them would have, a better environment. Sometimes the birds them and the fish them you find like plastic bags inside them belly you pull the gut them, because most of the time them rush to bait them and things. The way the pollution is them pick up all a piece of plastic instead of fish and swallow by mistake, And even the bags them tangle up the birds, them foot get tangled up in fishing line and plastic bag, and them suffer around here and die. And I want you to help. So I guess the cleanup is a good thing.
So, with the pollution levels so high, should there be a ban on fishing in the Kingston Harbor?
What these fishers are supposed to do, supposed to hold the oyster in clean seawater for like 12 hours and allow it to purify itself, allow it to flush itself. You see, fish is not so bad because you remove the gut of the fish. The oysters, they eat everything. And so you want to hold the oyster in a bucket of clean seawater. If you can aerate it, that would be great. And so I think they have to do more of that sort of thing. Because if somebody gets sick and they eat oyster at Port Royal, then their business is going to go down. So they try their best to make sure that the contamination is reduced.
Professor Weber points out that saving Refuge Key goes beyond just ensuring that the livelihood of fisherfolk is preserved.
Biodiversity seems very esoteric, very removed from the common man. But we have found organisms in those mangroves that have anti-tumor drugs, Echinacea turbinata. We have found, aside from food and medicines, mangroves can eventually provide timber. If the forest is healthy enough, you can actually remove wood from the forest. So in a lot of places, the mangrove is a resource. People living way up in Kingston and so on may not appreciate how the Port Royal community depends on the mangrove.
Plastic bottles are among the major pollutants on Refuge Key, and with talks of banning single-use plastics increasing, the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, investigated the feasibility of implementing a deposit refund system, DRS, in Jamaica. The system is expected to encourage and compensate consumers for plastic bottle returns. The CAPRI researchers are proposing 3 methods for bottle return.
The first one involves the consumer going to the supermarket. An employee at the supermarket would handle the returns. They count the bottles, they'll reimburse the consumer based on the number of bottles that they return. A transportation company comes and collects those bottles and takes them back to the processing center. The second model is very similar to the first in that the supermarket acts as a point of return and reimbursement, except that in this model, we're looking at an automated return system, the use of reverse vending machines, where consumers simply place their bottles within the machine automatically determines whether it's an eligible bottle that is participating in the DRS, and therefore counts the number of bottles and determines the deposit that must be refunded and issues either a voucher, typically a voucher or cash, that the consumer can use.
The third model sees consumers collecting the bottles and taking them to a specific depot or recycling facility themselves. The Capri researchers point out that the findings revealed that while Jamaicans were willing to return plastic bottles, they weren't willing to travel too far to do so.
One of the questions we asked about was the willingness of consumers to return bottles and how far would they be willing to travel. And essentially the majority of persons would be willing to travel no more than 5 minutes to drop off their bottle. I say this to emphasize the point that a depot model is not likely to bring you maximum recovery rates because it's just not going to be convenient to the consumer. Convenience is key to make this a deposit refund system work.
The compensation also has to be worth the effort.
For $1, essentially 11% of persons would be willing to make the effort and bring in their bottle and get a refund. To achieve a recovery rate of about 80 to 85%, which is typically what would be aimed for in a first world system, you'd need to charge about $5 per bottle.
With most of the island's plastic bottles ending up in landfills across the country, the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, says it will support a deposit refund system. The hope is that with more people recycling, the amount of plastic bottles that end up in the dump will be drastically reduced.
Jamaica in general is creating more and more waste, and because of that, our municipal dumps are being constantly filled. In 2014, we collected roughly about 672,000 tons of garbage, and in 2017, we collected roughly about 872,000. When we look at the locale that we're now sitting in terms of the metropolitan area, the retirement landfill collects roughly about 539,000 tons of garbage last year, all right? And out of that, 17% of that is plastic.
It's been months since the initial cleaning of Refuge Quay and the subsequent massive garbage haul. While the quay has been somewhat rehabilitated and life is slowly returning to the mangrove forest, the garbage problem persists. Every time it rains heavily, the garbage in Kingston's gullies gets washed into the Kingston Harbor. Then sooner or later, it lands on Refuge Quay.
In 2050, there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish at the rate we're going. So it is a worldwide issue to reduce, reuse, change how we've gotten so used to this extremely durable, long-lasting material that doesn't biodegrade. We've been doing collections using a manta trawl, which is an internationally accepted method of collecting the plastics. The worst I've seen just east of Gunboat Beach is where 25% of the catch was plastic. A quarter of, if you think 1 in 4 of the particles that a fish would encounter is plastic and not plankton. And we're doing some analysis. There is an area that looks worse. It might get as much as 40% of the catch being plastic, and that's where the fish are feeding. So I'm really hoping that is the worst that we have. Other parts of the world, in bays, you will have 20, 15%. You know, Kingston Harbor is perhaps one of the worst places.
Evelyn Harris is a maroon healer in Jamaica. She has spent decades making a living from her knowledge of Jamaican plants and their healing properties. The products she makes from these plants are in constant demand, and she's happy to be able to help others. She is symbolic of many persons in the Caribbean whose traditional knowledge is a rich and often unacknowledged resource.
You have to be curious to learn about herbs. This is dog's blood, and this one is good for infection or black tube. And this one is piaba, and the piaba is what good for a woman who's going through menopause.
She, like many others in the region, can share stories of how her knowledge has contributed to research without being properly credited or compensated. But all that will change as more Caribbean countries are getting on board with a Nagoya Protocol that will protect knowledge held by persons like Evelyn and will serve to preserve the natural resources she depends on. The Nagoya Protocol is an international agreement that focuses on the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits from the sustainable use of genetic resources. It is an agreement that researchers and prospective business developers that use the Caribbean's natural resources need to be aware of.
The Caribbean region has an abundant variety of marine and terrestrial biodiversity, including a high number of endemic species of flora and fauna. This richness is combined with a mix of cultures and traditional knowledge. Also, it is clear that Caribbean countries recognize the importance of their unique genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge, and at the same time know that sharing the benefits of the utilization of these resources can be a way to protect the rich natural resources and bring prosperity to Caribbean people.
The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in partnership with the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and the Global Environment Facility, GEF, is working with regional governments, research institutions, and other partners in the Caribbean to support countries to promote the sustainable use of the region's resources.
The needs are envisioned at 3 levels. One is at local levels, working with local communities and indigenous groups. The second level is the national level, working mainly with government and key line agencies that are going to be somehow responsible to implement the protocol, that have competencies according to the national law and the international legislation. And the third level is the regional level, working with CARICOM, for example, with OECS, other regional bodies like tourism organizations or other pertinent bodies that has responsibilities as well in the provision of the Nagoya Protocol.
Regulations will also be established for prior informed consent to access resources and the negotiation of mutually agreed terms to maximize the benefits of the protocol.
The Nagoya Protocol specifically deals with the issue of access to genetic resources and the sharing of the benefits that are gained from those resources. Now, if you think about the issue of sustainable development, if you think about the issue of natural resource management, it is necessary for these countries, who in most cases are small island developing states or developing countries, they need resources to be able to protect these natural resources that we have, these genetic resources. And so any avenue that is going to assist with making sure that some of these benefits come back in order to sustainably use these resources is something that the IUCN is always interested in providing.
The Bahamas, for example, is a hotspot for access to genetic resources for research and development. But only in one case of successful commercialization has benefit sharing with a country on the basis of an ABS contract took place.
There is a soft coral, which is a wavy coral. It's harvested annually in the Bahamas. And an extract from that was the first source of chemicals which are used today in skin revitalizing anti-aging creams. One of the researchers from the University of California came to the Bahamas and discovered a class of compounds which have anti-inflammatory properties. Later on, over 100 products in the world have been developed from the extracts from this coral.
For practitioners such as Dr. Sylvia Mitchell, the protocol will change the way how local communities and indigenous people like the Amerindians, Maroons, and Rastafarians operate.
The indigenous and local communities have to be part of the process. A very important part that the Nagoya Protocol recognizes in this whole value chain is that there are local indigenous communities all over the biodiversity-rich areas that have, over many, many generations, developed recipes. And when you develop products in the end, many, many years later, creams, anti-cancer, whatever, many times that traditional knowledge has been taken into account, but it doesn't filter back to those local communities.
Several Caribbean countries have already started putting in the framework to benefit from the implementation of the Nagoya Protocol. In Guyana, certain key steps have been taken.
Guyana already had a system in place with regards to granting access to its genetic resources. And that system is basically done through the Environmental Protection Agency. We're the agency responsible for granting all access to persons coming into the country to do research. If persons want to enter a specific community to access a specific resource, they have to get the consent of that community. When that consent is received, what they do is they have to submit that to, we have Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. And they would usually issue official permission saying the community has no objection with this person coming in to do such and such. When we have that, then we would issue our permit.
For Antigua and Barbuda, much has already been done, as these islands are in the process of depositing their ratification instrument.
This project will allow us to develop our regulations, to develop our policy, to set up our institutional infrastructure to now manage the issues. We don't know when any genetic materials and the associated traditional knowledge are being taken out of the country. We're not aware. It's only those people who will inform certain agencies or certain government agencies that they're taking them out. That only happens occasionally. But in instituting this Nagoya Protocol, in instituting our ABS regulations and policy, we'll be able to finally have a system to regulate this process.
The Nagoya Protocol is helping to preserve traditional knowledge that could be lost as elders die.
Over a period of time, people will come there, people have their complaints, people want to be treated for some ailments or whatever, and people will just come to folks who do what they have to do for them, but not necessarily telling them, you know, what is it I have done for you. Okay, if you come, you have a problem with your belly or your back or your shoulder or whatever, you will get the treatment for it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna know all the ingredients and stuff that goes into it. And even sometimes if people would probably show to you, you might see an ingredient or two that they use, but it would be probably the least important of the ingredient that you would have seen.
As the Caribbean embraces new opportunities to benefit from our biological resources, we look to the future.
I represent 11 parishes across the island which have a membership about 5,000. These are traditional farmers who have been growing marijuana illegally for years. Now that we are on the way to have a formal industry, we are working hard to allow standards to fit their needs as grassroots people while working with governments and agencies across the world.
The Nagoya Protocol is opening doors for Caribbean people.
I wanted to be an educator because I believe that education is the most powerful weapon that can change the world.
My dreams and aspiration is to one day become an entrepreneur where I can employ other persons and
help to build the country.
I wanted to go into development. I wanted to help people become better versions of themselves. Growing up, I saw a lot of violence, I saw a lot of crime, I saw a lot of poverty. The challenges are so many. The first one that comes to mind is the level of youth unemployment that's here.
Challenges that exist here in West Prospect Bogwalk are lack of awareness for educational opportunities or job opportunities.
Not many got a chance to do CXC or graduate from the secondary level. So that's a major setback for the people living in the community.
A way to alleviate this issue is training programs.
They need more opportunities, like to go back to school to get themselves a certificate so they can be able to work and create employment for themselves and their family.
Push more entrepreneurship opportunity, encourage these youths to be creative and innovative in what they do. Give them startup capital to start their business. Invest more in the youth skills and talents.
The Poverty Reduction Program is funded by the European Union, and it really is a program that focuses on the most vulnerable type of communities, making communities safer, making citizens more healthy, better access to education.
For European Union, investing in youth is an obvious choice. They are the future of the country. If we prepare them well, they will bring the change that Jamaica needs. That's why we invest in scholarships, internship, training in life skills and mentorship.
I received a tertiary scholarship from PRP to attend the University of Technology, Jamaica. It meant a lot to me because I realized that somebody else believed in me and somebody saw the potential that I have and somebody believed that I could actually achieve my goal.
I benefited by getting firstly an internship, and also they assisted my bachelor's degree financially. But critically, outside of the finances, the persons that were on the project, you know, the motivation that they provided, etc., it really provided a huge boost.
This is my third year at the MICO. This scholarship, it helped me to be able to focus only on my education here, because tertiary education is not cheap.
I was placed at ODPEM on the one-year internship program. It was really good. It was an opportunity for me to prove myself, to give myself a service, and also to gain experience in the working world, and to also provide for my family.
I plan to be an agent of change in my community by being a mentor, a leader, and a godfather for the youths growing up. Try to help them, teach them a trade.
You don't have to be rich to help. You don't have to achieve greatness to start. I contributed to my basic school by providing them with the necessary resources that they need, that I believe that in the long run, it will have a ripple effect on many, many persons.
Professionally, I manage the whole program, which is aimed at giving young persons the opportunity to, do what I did, basically, to get their foot inside an organization. Additionally, I also have a little small business that I try to employ young persons to learn a skill, etc.
When you're persistent in life, when you're determined, when you're hungry for success, then you'll be able to accomplish and achieve anything that you want.
It has changed hundreds and hundreds of lives. Not just my life, my family lives, my friends' lives, etc. I want to just urge everyone looking on to continue these social programs. These are the solutions to the many ills that we face as a society and as a country and even as a world. So thank you, and I challenge you, continue it. It's needed.
pivotal role of the CARICOM Development Fund highlighted at meeting in Barbados.
Guyana's president swears in new chair of the Guyana Elections Commission.
And CARICOM moving to strengthen food safety in the region. Welcome to this week's edition of the CARICOM News Highlights. I am Jacine Dunkley-Malcolm.
And I am Michelle Nurse. Welcome to the program.
Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mia Mottley, and Interim Chairman of the CARICOM Development Fund, CDF, Dr. Richard Brown, have acknowledged the pivotal role of the CDF in the development of the community. They were both speaking at the opening of the 8th meeting of contributors and development partners of the CDF on the 30th of June in Barbados.
The notion of the average citizen in the region being able to play that definable difference in the funding of this region's development is what must be embraced, and embraced with vigor.
We also live in a region that is faced with a number of perennial challenges and constraints, some of them structural, some natural, and others which are external to the region. These include issues such as the withdrawal of correspondent banking services and de-risking by international banks, which have a significant impact on our trade and development prospects, and to which we have been forced to adapt in order to survive. One aspect of this adaptation, which is an integral element of our long-term strategic response, is for us to strengthen our internal economic and functional cooperation ties within CARICOM. The CDF is well positioned as a treaty-based institution of the community to play a pivotal role in this regard, through the support that the fund provides to disadvantaged countries, regions, and sectors within CARICOM.
The Prime Minister also committed to honor Barbados' obligation to the CDF, even as she challenged the organization to find new ways to raise capital to help member countries fund projects.
Barbados will honor its obligations before the end of this second cycle, in spite of being in an IMF program. Because fundamentally, our future is inextricably linked to a successful CARICOM single market and single economy.
The CDF is a CARICOM institution whose mandate is to provide financial or technical assistance to disadvantaged countries, regions, and sectors in CARICOM arising from their participation in the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the CSME. The institution is based in Barbados and is headed by Chief Executive Officer Mr. Rodinald Sumer.
The impact on the silent victims of domestic or family violence was a high point for head of the Crime and Security Program at the CARICOM Secretariat, Mr. Sherwin Toyne Stevenson. He spoke to CARICOM News Time at the end of a regional forum to refine protocols on the collection and sharing of administrative data on domestic violence.
The high point, I should say, or the most eye-opening moment, you know, that moment when you catch yourself and you say, this is what struck me the most, was a lot of discussion this afternoon that we had that was centered around the silent victims of domestic violence. And by this I mean persons who constantly are in the environment where domestic violence itself plays out. And I'm speaking particularly to our young children, who many of us see as, you know, just being on the side, they don't have a voice, but we don't know how much it is affecting them. I've had personal experiences, and I'm sure a lot of persons related in the room, to personal having seen things that happen where, as a young person, 11, 12 years old, you feel unable to respond. Having to go through that consistently does create a situation that is very harmful in our opinion.
The forum is an activity of the Crime and Violence and Social Development component of the CARIFORUM European Union Crime and Security Program under the 10th European Development Fund. The objective of the forum was to contribute to the strengthening and harmonizing of systems and approaches for the collection, analysis, and dissemination of administrative data on gender-based violence.
We recognize in the region that in order to make informed choices that would be able to help us better implement prescriptions and policies and whatever it is that comes out of in ensuring that our region moves forward, depends very heavily on data. We are as a region, I would say, now evolving in our understanding and our use of data, particularly so in terms of bringing it together in a regional platform where we can be able to make trends analysis, which would move us from a position of really responding to crime scenarios, but be able to predict and prescribe situations so that we move from being more reactive to a more proactive kind of society.
The capacity building initiative targeted persons in management, policy implementers, decision makers, and experts from the hotlines, shelters, hospitals, health centers, police, courts, and/or statistics officers. President David Granger swore in the first female chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM, on the 29th of July. He presented Justice Claudette Singh with her instruments of office at the Ministry of the Presidency.
I, Claudette Margot Cecile Singh, do hereby solemnly declare that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people of Guyana, that I will faithfully execute the office of Chairman of the Elections Commission without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that in the execution of the functions of that office, I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and I do so swear, so help me God.
President Granger described the swearing-in as a good day for the Republic of Guyana and reiterated that Justice Singh's appointment fulfills the mandate of the Constitution of Guyana and also satisfies the recent ruling of the Caribbean Court of Justice.
The Elections Commission is not a plaything. Its independence is a condition for engendering confidence and public trust in the electoral system and for the efficient conduct of elections. I initiated a consensual process with the leader of the opposition to identify a chairman of the Elections Commission in accordance with the provisions of our Constitution and in accordance with the interpretation of the Caribbean Court of Justice. I received from the leader of the opposition a list of 6 names, not unacceptable to me, on the 26th of July. From that list, I chose Justice Claudette Singh. The appointment of Justice Claudette Singh means that the Election Commission has a chairman again after a hiatus of a little more than a month. It is now properly constituted and can continue to prepare for the conduct of free, fair, and timely elections. It fulfills the Caribbean Court of Justice's ruling in relation to Article 161(2).
And in another first, St. Vincent and the Grenadines swore in its first female Governor General, Her Excellency Susan Dugan, on the 1st of August. The retired educator said that she was extremely honored and privileged to fill the post.
I, Susan Dugan, do swear that I will well and truly serve the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the office of Governor General. So help me God. I thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for your warm words and for giving me the honor of becoming the first female Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I look forward to working with the government, all members of Parliament, and our national institutions in service to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
She succeeds Sir Frederick Ballantyne.
CARICOM is moving to strengthen food safety in the region. Food safety regulators met recently in Paramaribo, Suriname, and identified key recommendations to enhance the coordination of food safety measures among CARICOM member states. The meeting was held from the 23rd to the 25th of July 2019. It was organized by the Caribbean Agricultural Health and Food Safety Agency, CAFSA, a CARICOM institution in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization and the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries of Suriname. Participants recommended the creation of a Caribbean task force on food safety that will formally coordinate, advise, and strengthen CAFSA's work in that area. The task force will offer advice on prioritization of food safety challenges and how to promote a common food safety agenda for the region, including an approach for harmonization of food safety standards. CAFSA will present the recommendations to the Council of Trade and Economic Development, COTED. CAFSA is headquartered in Suriname and is headed by Chief Executive Officer Mr. Simeon Collins.
Last week, we spoke about a new project to build capacity in the beekeeping industry in the Caribbean. Here's Ms. Beverly Best, Director of External and Institutional Relations at the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, ICA, with more details on the project, which is being done by ICA, the government of Argentina, and 4 CARICOM member states, Barbados, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia.
The direct beneficiaries we see as the beekeepers, bee farmers. We also see the governments themselves. We also see the families of the beekeepers, and we see a unique opportunity. And I used that word before, but I think it's critical that I use it here for women and young persons to benefit from this project, given the capacity to train these people to get involved in an initiative such as this. And the intention is that the project will be expanded and we'll have other countries participating after the first phase. So we're hoping that the lessons learned from this phase, some of the best practices that we would have developed, would be utilized to even improve the project in the other countries.
We take this opportunity to wish Jamaica a happy independence. Jamaica gained its independence on the 6th of August in 1962. We leave you today with a glimpse of how emancipation is observed in some of our member states.
And in Suriname, and not because I'm from Suriname, but I have observed it in our region, the community. Suriname is the only country in the Caribbean, and at least this part, where you have this type of a head tie. This is just one. A lot of starch goes in this thing.
Oh, wow.
And ironing and so on. And you will see it's tied in a certain way and it has knots, right? There are several of these type of head dresses or head ties, if I may say so. Depending on where you have the knots, in which direction is showing and how it's brought together, it might have several meanings.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yes, this dates from slavery times. You know, during slavery, men and women were not allowed to meet and so on. And even later on, you know, very conservative society, you were not free to meet your friend or your boyfriend and so on. So depending on how you would have the knots and how you would tie it, it might mean that, okay, meet me on the corner.
Oh, wow.
Or meet me on the left corner.
A rendezvous of sorts.
Yes, or meet me on the right corner.
I see.
Or let them talk.
Oh, wow.
You know, you're a woman, you don't care. Oh, let them talk. So that is what it would resemble.
As opposed to the English-speaking Caribbean, emancipation is not observed in Haiti. But what happened? We celebrate Independence Day, which is on the January 1st. As you may be aware, there is the pumpkin soup, which recalls how during the slavery period only the masters could drink this pumpkin soup. So for independence, I mean, all Haitians would have pumpkin soup, just to say that, I mean, just to say that since since we could not drink it around slavery, so we are free now. We can do it.
You are now up to date with the major developments in the region. For more details on these and other stories, visit the CARICOM Secretariat news site today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org.
Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
See you next time.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access. Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
If you're looking for a sleek, sporty, and spacious vehicle, then the C-Class may be just for you. Business Access TV is here at Silver Star Motors for the C-Class Mercedes-Benz facelift launch. I'm your host, Amita Prasad-Webb. Please stay tuned for highlights. Welcome to the launch of the new C-Class. The new look C-Class is the biggest model update in the car's history, with 6,500 updates and new additions. We are going to show you 3 different models, and I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome. So, the Mercedes-Benz, best or nothing. And in order for us to keep that true, the brand has to keep improving. So, we're in the 5th generation of the C-Class. It's the most successful model for Mercedes-Benz. And the C-Class has been comprehensively optimized and resharpened and combines emotionality with intelligence. What do I mean about that? One of the features that we're going to tell you about today is that the vehicle has air balance. We offer this as an option. You can choose a fragrance that makes you feel comfortable in your car, whether you want to have a soft mood or you want to be energized. The design of the exterior and interior benefits are stylish. The vehicle's new appearance is defined in particular by its modified front end and design of the headlamps and taillights. High quality sculpted details underline the sophisticated look and feel. LED high-performance headlamps and the multi-beam LED headlamps with ultra-range high beam are available. The interior is sporty and has a premium look and feel. New interior colors and trim elements have been introduced. So today we'll actually be launching and showing you one of the new colors. I won't spoil the surprise yet. The C-Class also adopts the control and display concept from the current S-Class and comes with the option of a fully digital instrument display and 3 individually selected display styles. The C-Class has touch-sensitive controls in the steering wheel, which makes control of the functions easier. And they do this by a touchpad. Now we have everybody on board today, so I want you to challenge Thomas, Cara, Homer, Jason, the entire team, to telling you all about the features. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
We hear that it's sporty, spacious, and sleek, but what else sets this vehicle apart from the others that we may come across? The new look C-Class has come out with a lot of new features, including new colors, new interior trim elements, a fully instrument digital display, a larger media display, and multi-beam LED headlamps as an optional feature.
So talk to us about the demand for these high-end vehicles.
So the demand for luxury vehicles in Jamaica is high. We're very impressed, and we're hoping that the C-Class will hit the market strong and that the Jamaicans will love the new features as much as we do. In fact, our C43 AMG that we launched today has already been sold. The new look C-Class comes with an optional headlamp feature for LED high-performance headlamps or multi-beam LED headlamps. It also comes with a diamond grille, which is beautiful and makes it a classy and sporty look. The new look C-Class comes with several new trim options, including the one you see in this beautiful C300. The C-Class also comes with a larger media display screen, as you can see. The steering wheel also comes with touchpad and control buttons to make functions easier when you're driving. The new class has an option for a fully instrument digital cluster, which, as you can see, gives it a sporty, upgraded, fancy look. One of the cool features of the new C-Class is the energizing comfort control, where you can select a scent, music, and seats based on your mood. Refresh, vitality. Our C-Class also come with an anti-dazzle feature, which is for the rear view mirror and side mirrors, where if a car shines a light from behind you and it hits the mirror will tint so you only see what's directly behind you. This is such a useful and safe feature for driving at night.
Driving a German whip, driving a German whip, yo! If you see man driving a German whip, blacked out window leaning back, see man driving a German whip, look like a ball of peas and that.
Mr. Stevenson, you've had previous Mercedes models. Speak to us about that compared to this. What would you say sets this one apart?
So what sets the C-Class apart is that it is actually the best-selling Mercedes of all time. So Mercedes have a lot of love for the C-Class. As you heard earlier, there's 6,500 new parts for the car, and that is the biggest overhaul for this car ever. So I think this car, they gave it a lot more love than previous ones. And the tagline for this car is never stop improving. And that meshes nicely with the Mercedes-Benz tag, which is the best or nothing. So you can expect to see a lot of really cool little features in this car, such as the fragrance that you can put in the car. There's 64 different types of ambient lighting. So this car is very much tied to the individual. It gets you in a mood, it gets you in a, I don't know, just wraps you up in a cocoon of awesomeness when you drive a car like this. So I think that that's what they've done with this car. They've made it intimate.
Let's talk price points and our payment plans available.
So we start at 11.4 for the C180, which is the entry level. And we do have financing packages. We have our in-house financing, which is Simpson Finance. Currently, they've got the best rate on the market at 6.99%. So now is a really good time to actually get in and get a financial package through Simpson Finance, because I think it's the 6.99% will last till the end of next month. So it's a good time to buy a C-Class or a Mercedes.
All right, so you've just had your C-Class Benz facelift launch. What's next for Stewart's Automotive Group?
Well, the group is always trying to bring something new to the market for the Jamaicans, because we love our people. The closest thing in mind, we're coming out with 2 new models at Mitsubishi, the Traj and the Montero Sport. They should be coming early next year, and we're very excited to expand the models that we offer. I think the Jamaican public will be very happy with them as well.
In regards to the launch today, what would you say is your favorite feature of the new C-Class?
Well, I really like the updated interior, the new screens. It really brings a fresh look and it keeps up with the competition. The competition is always evolving and they have great vehicles, so it's good to see that our manufacturer is keeping pace and outdoing them, in my personal opinion.
And that's it from us here. Until next time, I've been your host, Amita Prasad Webb, and thank you for tuning in to Business Access TV, serious about business.
I do have a dream, and I know you have a dream, that we can make Jamaica the place of choice for you to choose to live, to work, to do business.
We are going for the Jamaica we want. Making steady progress to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in our National Development Plan, Vision 2030 Jamaica. We have teamed up with valued partners, working through strong institutions to reduce inequalities in our society. We commit to being responsible in our production and consumption, ensuring we build sustainable communities in harmony with nature. Jamaica is making significant strides in providing quality, lifelong education for all, enabling our people to be engaged in decent work to drive economic growth, equipping men and women with the skills to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industry, foster innovation, and utilize new technologies. Urgent action is being taken to manage natural resources responsibly, protecting clean water sources, ensuring access to water and sanitation for all, diversifying to alternative energy sources, conserving our environment and sustaining life below water and on land. Jamaica is making moves to ensure healthy lifestyles for the well-being of our people. We're promoting sustainable agriculture to achieve food security, improve nutrition, and end extreme hunger, putting in the work to end poverty in all its forms. We're on track in achieving our Sustainable Development Goals through realizing our Vision 2030 Jamaica. We will leave no one behind.
And I'm chilling right now, cause we're winning right now.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious.
Serious about business.
This is the 10th consecutive MSBM Roundtable, where we bring together international experts, senior leaders from the public and private sectors, and academia to discuss topical issues. And if you've been following the Roundtable, going back to 2010, you would have noted that the discussions from this forum have helped to strengthen the Caribbean economies in several ways. Today's theme, as your program shows, is Agile Leadership for Digital Transformation. And as usual, we have our own CEO chairing the function. So your chair for this morning's breakfast discussion is none other, I'm pleased to say, than Professor Dale Weber, no stranger at all to the majority of you in the room.
The University of the West Indies is very pleased, very proud to have the Mona School of Business and Management as the heart of its operation within the Faculty of Social Sciences, where we do the business that allows us to practice what we teach. We train those who go out there to make a difference in the business sector. We train for all aspects. We train at the undergraduate and the graduate level. We're therefore very pleased that we have the opportunity to work with partners when we can have that opportunity, such as today. So the university is built on access, alignment, and agility as our three key focal points within our strategic plan. Access, in that we want to have more students accessing the UWI. We want to have more of the research of the UWI accessible to business. We can do that if we are in the right connection. Enter the second A, alignment. And that is why we're here today. Under alignment, the University of the West Indies would like to offer itself as that entity which will allow those public and private sector organizations who wish to have research drive their decision-making process. We would like to be the engine of that research. The Mona School of Business has created in this roundtable opportunity a key component in that alignment, where we would like to do research, but we would like to get the questions from you. So people think about the university and say, we're in an ivory tower. We're over there doing what we want to do. Well, we would like to do what you want us to do. We could have a lot of answers for a lot of questions, but if we ask ourselves the questions, where are we going? So we would like to ask you to provide those questions as partners so that we can provide the research to give you the answers. This roundtable opportunity allows us the key components of that discussion. Finally, under the AAA strategy is agility. Now, the University of the West Indies, we will confess that our wheels turn very slowly. Apart from in the Mona School of Business, where Dr. McBean will not allow us to stand still and keeps dragging us into the next generation. Well, under agility, we would like to do two main things. One, we want digital transformation of our institution, and that I think fits in today with today's discussion in terms of agility and digital transformation. And two, we want to be sure that we are bringing a financial positive to the UWI. Now, what better way to do that than to partner with those of you in public and private sector who are already making that digital transformation? But enough from me, because I don't know anything about business. I know a little about management, so I'm going to try and manage as we move through today's exercise.
We're here this morning to speak about agile leadership for digital transformation. And it strikes me that when we speak about agility or agile leadership, some things come to mind: transformative, innovative, doing things differently, collaborative working. And it is a race that we always run. I've been at this digital transformation in various capacities since the early 90s, which is over 25 years now. And every time we think that we have succeeded, the game changes. So 10 years ago, there was nothing called social media marketing. But marketers that were trained 10, 15 years ago have to not just exist, but thrive in this new world of digital transformation. And there's more to come. We're in the age of machine learning, going to artificial intelligence. I was lucky enough to have started my research in artificial intelligence. I've maintained a more than passing interest. And it's just amazing what we thought we would do 20 years ago is far different from what we're actually doing and where we're going. And I'm sure Murat will speak more to those sort of challenges. So what it means is that we can't stand still. But also we have to get the basics right, because digital transformation in and of itself is not a goal. The goal is, what do we want the society to look like, and how does digital transformation get us there? And it means we have to have a generation of leaders and students who will always be thinking along that path. We have lots of work to do. I would take this opportunity to invite members of the public and private sector to partner with the Mona School of Business and Management and the university as a whole. If all people trained at the university were to stop working for one day, whether directly or indirectly, the country would shut down. We have many CEOs that have passed through the MSBM. I think of Don Webby, for example, who comes to mind. And we are proud of what we have trained. I always make these points when I speak publicly now. While it's important that people are able to function in the workplace immediately when they leave, it's more important that they're able to learn in the workplace and adapt themselves. And that is why we try not to train technicians who are work ready, because it's impossible to do that for the dozens of companies out there. But we promise you we will train people who should be able to adapt to your changing circumstances. And so we invite you to partner with us as we go through these and other initiatives. Our students need help, they need mentoring. The pool and the society is a lot different today. So if you can't contribute, as Minna goes on her much needed fundraising, contribute your time. Mentor a student. We would ask that you look at sponsoring a student, because if we're talking about digital transformation, it means we're in a knowledge economy. And if we're in a knowledge economy, we need people trained to function in that knowledge economy. So as I close, I welcome your support. The university is here to partner with you. Our sole reason is to take global knowledge and turn it into regional and local solutions for our markets. So we thank you for your support. I would like to add my welcome to you to this 10th anniversary, and I look forward to a really stimulating conference. Thank you.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show, and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV, serious about business.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV, prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Mr. Murat Bisak is responsible for overseeing and shaping the PMI long-term strategy. Is Chief Strategy and Growth Officer of the PMI, supporting the execution of the company's business objectives, increasing the footprint in high-growth markets, and advancing the PMI's capabilities in partnering with organizations in both public and private sectors. And that is why we've asked him to come today. We invite to bring us our keynote, Mr. Murat Bisak.
The world is changing, and it's changing really, really fast. And I have 3 examples here to show you how much it's changing, and maybe you know all of this. The first example on the left is a painting, as you see. It was auctioned last year at an auction house in London and fetched about $300,000. It wasn't made by a human being. It was completely painted by machine intelligence. The beef in the middle is not meat, but if you eat it, it's exactly like meat. You may have tried it. You probably have heard of the IPO Better Burger about last month, and there are a number of companies right now producing beef-like products that are not animal-based, but taste exactly like that. Turns out that public is ready for these types of changes. According to a recent survey, about 60% of the people who were surveyed said that they would definitely buy it as long as the price is right. And on the very right, this is a representation of how the music industry has changed, and we all now listen to music. I'm sure I know every one of you in Jamaica love music. I do too, and we now access it digitally. And of course, companies like Spotify and other companies who have disrupted the music space are looking at technologies such as blockchain to make sure that these contracts between the artists, the lawyers, the public is transparent. The royalties are calculated as soon as possible and distributed, and they use blockchain technology to do that. So 3 very different industries, huge change in each and every one, and essentially every one sector and industry is going through this type of disruption. And I'm here to tell you that this is actually going to accelerate from now on. And the reason for that is because when you look at the S-curve, and I'll show you one soon, we are in an exponential accelerated curve right now because we have computing power that is doubling and more than doubling every year. It's getting much cheaper. Everything is on the cloud, so all information is accessible. And we have built algorithms and programs that can access the cloud for free, get that information, and think, and they do that faster than our brain can. So that's the change that's going on. And it's a little bit scary, but there is also the positive side to this. Now, with all that fear, and I know fear turns the attention, let's take a look at how fast we started adopting these technologies. So you look at, for example, the radio. It took the radio 38 years to reach 50 million users. It took the TV 13 years, iPod 4 years, Internet 3 years, Facebook about a year, and Twitter about 7 to 9 months. So today, what that tells me is that we as human beings are getting more and more used to adopting technology, and the penetration rates are increasing because we are now all connected. We all have these devices. They are much faster and more capable than anything that we've used when we were in school, and we are augmented by them, and we're able to enhance ourselves, and we're okay to accept technology. So that's us as individual human beings. However, when we look at companies, which is the collection of human beings at the end of the day, we don't see that pattern as fast or as easy of adoption. So on the left, this is a busy chart, but what it says is on the left, when you look at AI for example, and ask the leaders whether they agree that AI is a technology that they should use in their companies, many would say, yes, it is. It's a very important technology. Everybody recognizes it. We know it. On the right-hand side of the chart, you see the companies that actually have adopted it. And what it says is most companies actually have not adopted it and are not using it. So there's a huge gap between us as a consumer and us as an organization and our adoption rates. And there's a huge gap between knowing and doing. And that gap is what makes most of these transformations difficult to be successful. Now, the result. This is a S&P 500, actually S&P index. And when you look at from 1960s, on the very left of this chart, all the way to today, and the y-axis represents the average company lifespan on years, you see that the lifespan of companies on the S&P index, these are the leading companies for the most part, is going down. So this is the picture, right? This is what happens when technology is faster than the adoption rate of the companies, and we are going to see this accelerated because we are on an upward exponential curve. As a result, many companies, actually this is one of our surveys, 80% of companies have started or have done a digital transformation. It goes back to the 90s. Transformation is fundamentally about creating something that is really different than what you have today. It can't be incremental, it has to be really different. And when we look at the world, that's what we see. You look at, for example, Tesla, and compare Tesla's stock performance versus Ford. And you would see that their market capitalization is higher than Ford over the lifespan of a significant portion of Ford's existence. The reason is they both make cars, but Tesla doesn't make a car. Tesla makes software. Because if you have a Tesla, you actually are buying a product that updates itself overnight while you're sleeping, because the software update that gets released and downloaded to your car automatically improves the car. That's not a car the way we know a car. Cars used to be designed 5 years in advance, developed and packaged and put in the market. That was a car. It didn't update itself. Now this is another product. And the reason, the fundamental, I think, issue is that companies that are in industries, in those industries, are not those that come up with the innovation. And that's the disruption theory. And we're not going to go into that today. But unless the change is fundamentally different, it is not a transformation. So what is PMI? PMI is a very interesting organization. First of all, we are a not-for-profit organization. We are here to advance the thinking of our individuals who have an idea and you want to see a result. So 50 years ago, when PMI started, we were started by 5 individuals who said, we are doing all these projects and we need standard ways of working around these projects, so let's start an association. And if we're successful, we'll reach 1,000 people. That's how we started. Today, we reach 3 million people, 50 years later, and we're much more than projects, programs, portfolios, and I'll tell you a little bit more. And today, we're publishing thought leadership pieces around AI and the impact of AI on future of work, quotients that one could calculate. What is your technical quotient as an organization, as an individual? What are the capabilities you need to have, and so forth. And when we look at 3 years ago, what we had talked about, and today what we're doing is drastically different. So we are, as ourselves, in the middle of a major transformation. Now, I'm going to switch now and talk a little bit about the 7 tenets that I would like to share with you that I've learned from my personal experience as a management consultant and corporate leader, from the 3 years that I've spent at PMI doing our own transformation, and going to the world and talking to leaders and identifying what they are doing that we can learn from, and then coming back to our organization and contributing to our IP. So 3 different perspectives summarized in 7 tenets. Number 1, a transformation needs a why. Without the why, it's impossible to connect to individuals who are going to make it happen. The fundamental reason why you see the people adopting technologies is because they see why it is that they should actually use it. So we do. Most of the time, organizations come up with some idea or goal, but most of the time those goals don't connect to the people. And they are sometimes financial, sometimes maybe impossible to achieve, and the people in the ranks don't believe in it. And it's not something that they can resonate with, and they cannot identify with it, and they don't see the purpose. So it's very important to identify what is your purpose as an organization. What are you trying to do? Now, the second thing that's important, we need to sing the same song. It has to be the same thing, otherwise it's dissonance. It has to be, there needs to be an orchestrator, and everybody needs to know their role, and they need to play the same tunes. Otherwise, it won't work, right? It's easier said than done. And so you see here on the left-hand side of the chart, our new CEO. He came in, and he read our strategy, he read our transformation plan, and he said, I love it. I'm going to sign on to this, and I will talk about it everywhere I go. And now he's talking about it everywhere he goes. Everybody has started understanding what is it that we're doing. And the song started to become real for us. So you can ask anyone at PMI what we're doing. Everybody would tell you exactly what we're doing the same way as I would tell you, because it's clear.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, Fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and people say, what are you going to be? The parents will say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands!
Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Number 3 is engaging your own people. There are many, I used to be a consultant, and there are many consultants that are really great, but we can't rely on them to deliver the transformation because they go away. We need to engage our own people to deliver the transformation. And to do that, the first pillars need to be there. So they need to have bought into the purpose, and they need to know the song that we're singing. Multiple things, right? So yes, purpose, yes, the song needs to be clear. But there's another thing that needs to be in there as well, which is empowerment and trust. And that is very critical because in most organizations, we know from surveys, and I'm sure you do surveys in your organizations, you will find that individuals are not engaged for the most part. They're looking at their jobs as something that they have to do, and then they go home and they have a private life. But when, as leaders, we allow individuals to fail, they start taking risks. And this is one of the agile principles. But it's very difficult to, as leaders, to accept that because we are working in organizations that are built for effectiveness and efficiency, right? That's the unit measure, productivity. Now we're asking our individuals to take risks. Why would anybody do that? Their jobs may be at risk, right? So a lot of people don't do it. Even if you gave them permission, they don't do it. As leaders, one of the things that we've done is I've said to my teams and anybody who presented to me, and they were coming to me for decisions, I told them, I am not going to make a decision. I will support your decision, but you need to explain to me why you're making that decision and how it fits to our strategy. So don't ask me to make the decisions, because if I start making decisions, then I don't need you. Number 4, this is interesting. We started acting like venture capitalists at a not-for-profit organization called PMI. You can do that. So if we can do that, you can do that. So what does that mean? There are great things about Silicon Valley. Of course, risk-taking and ideas is one tool. But one thing that VCs do, other than funding, is they don't fund the whole way. They fund it in stages. So if somebody comes to us and says, I have this idea, and now we have an innovation, we're building PMI labs, we're making investments in startups and so forth, and all that happened over the last 9 months, we say, okay, pitch that idea to us and tell us, what are you going to deliver in 12 weeks? So we started thinking about 12-week increments. What is the customer going to see in 12 weeks with your idea? If you can provide a vision for that, we'll fund you for 12 weeks. And then you come back. That's how we work. So a lot of our thinking historically, and you may think that project management is all about many, many months of planning, many, many months or years of implementation. We have changed that internal to PMI. Now it's all about, in our world, what do you deliver in 12 weeks to the customer? What do you need to do that? And we'll give you that money, and then you have to come back and first prove that that idea actually works. And then we can give you more. And that's how we do it. And it's extremely powerful when you do it. So to do all this, you need to build a culture of unlearning. And of course, relearning. But unlearning first of all the ways how the organization works today. Because in every organization, there are many meetings with a lot of people in the room, and somebody will come up with an idea, and somebody will say, yes, but, and, or, well, we don't really do that here. Or we do it a little bit different here. You have to go talk to marketing. They will not let you do this. Or brand will say this. So a lot of ideas get killed. So this unlearning of that behavior is extremely important. So rather than but, we're using and rather than having meetings with 20 people, we actually reduced the meetings and team sizes significantly to sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, and said, you can make a decision. All you have to do is inform and don't break rules and government and laws and things of that nature, but you can make a lot of decisions. And that's part of the unlearning. Which gets me to one of the best quotes that I've heard, and it was very impactful when I listened to it. It came from Dick Costolo. He's the former CEO of Twitter. He's the guy who took Twitter from $1 million to $1 billion. And he made this presentation to us at one of our PMI events last year. And he said, organizations, for the most part, think about their legacy. But what they really need to do is understand the legacy, but protect the future. What do you need to do to protect the future? The legacy is done. You are responsible for the future. And it's very difficult to do that in organizations that are 50-year-old, 20-year-old more, because we think that we have a lot of legacy and that we have to respect, which is true, we need to respect it. But that legacy is not going to make our future. So we need to unattach it ourselves sometimes from it, and really, and that's why I put number one, what's the purpose? Really attach to our purpose and restate our purpose in the sense of what it is today and in the future, and look at the future and not the past. So that's the transition that every organization needs to make. The last one is a little bit self-serving, but it is very true. We say organize around projects, and we're not just about projects, we're about strategy execution, but we like the unit of value delivery, and that unit of value delivery in many cases is a project. So what does that mean, organize around projects? Isn't that obvious? Well, it isn't, actually. We are seeing a major shift in the market, and that shift requires organizations to rethink how they think about delivering value to their customers. Most organizations today have a role and a job which attaches to a desk and a person. But in reality, if you look at how organizations deliver the value, they deliver value around projects. So with temporary assignments, with temporary goals and outcomes attached to a project, you have many people, and their role is doing that project right. Not what it says in their job description, right? Because that ties them to a silo, marketing, finance, but their value delivery is a project. But why are organizations not organized that way then, right? So we took that, and now what we do at PMI is we organize around projects. We have very clearly laid out what is we call it value tree. What is our value tree that attaches to a customer result? And how do every project clearly contribute to that value result? Of course, we have programs, portfolios, etc., products. And we actually took the people out of their jobs, and we said, you are now 100% dedicated to doing this. And people said, wait a second, is my job gone when this project is done? We said, no, don't worry about the job. You deliver this, and there will be more, because we're in constant transformation. So we're changing that, and we're actually going to be talking a lot about it, because we are in a project economy. All of us are in the project economy today, and that we need to change how we are structured as organizations. So to summarize, these are simple statements that are very difficult to do, but there is really 7 of them. If you do these right, you're going to achieve a lot. And I haven't really talked about digital or technology that much. I talked a lot about people, teams, and individuals, because at the end of the day, it's the people, teams, and our organizations are all about that deliver anything that is of value to our societies. So if we follow these, change some of the practices that we do, I think we can be more successful than looking at the digital transformation as an adoption of a technology. It's all about the people.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
As we contemplate the theme, Agile Leadership for Digital Transformation, the subtext of what we are really saying or asking is, what do we have to tackle today to make tomorrow? In the case of climate, today we have to tackle rising temperature to prevent the continued complex shifts affecting our planet's weather and climate systems, manifesting in rising average temperatures, extreme weather events, rising seas, and a range of other impacts. As we embrace agility in leadership as what's needed for the digital transformation, we sometimes forget how uncharted this new digital world remains, and that it is a work in progress, and that it is people who are at the center of the digital transformation. The speaker ahead of me pointed to that. So as we think about agile leadership for digital transformation this morning, I believe all business leaders still have to answer some critical questions that Peter Drucker asked some 40 years ago, and he asked 5 critical questions. The first one is, what is your mission? He said, your mission statement should not explain what you do, but rather why you do what you do. The second question is, who is your customer? And I know we're transitioning to the digital world, but these are still very basic questions that we have to take with us into that world. Who's your customer? He said, you must find out who your customer is and then organize all of your efforts towards meeting their needs and bringing them value, even as you transform digitally. The next question, what does your customer value? And he said this question is probably the most important. The key is that it can only truly be answered by your customer themselves. So you must know what your customers want and need. And what are your results is the next question. You must be able to measure your results in both qualitative and quantitative terms. You must not only know what your results are, but you must have a standard for evaluating them. And finally, what is your plan? Your plan should include your mission statement, action steps, and a way to evaluate your results. And if you can't summarize those points, then you don't have a plan to achieve your goals. Make the transformation to the digital world all you want. Just don't forget that it is the people who are at the center of the digital transformation.
It's certainly a pleasure to be here with my co-worker, Dr. Silburn Clark Silburn. Our brief presentation provides more insights from ongoing research at Mona School of Business and Management on the digital transformation imperative. Last year, we reported from the research that few Jamaican firms had declared a digital agenda. And we also reported that the 2018 World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Report, and you know Mona School collects the Jamaican data for that. This report indicated that Jamaica's economic growth is being severely constrained by low levels of ICT adoption, low levels of exports, and low innovation capability. You've heard from Murat and certainly the minister, and they make the point that whereas digital transformation is crucial, it is fundamentally about people. Our discussion seeks to answer one fundamental question: what should be done to lead digital transformation towards Vision 2030 Jamaica? Our executive director, Dr. David McBean, and the minister just now has made it clear that digital transformation is not the goal. And we all know that we have a mere 10 years left to achieve Vision 2030. You know, and as just the minister just said, that Vision 2030 seeks to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And you also know that although we've made progress, the progress is slow. In fact, the minister just said that a key part of making good progress is to measure the outcome that we want. And so we have always said at Mona School of Business and Management that the place of choice in this statement needs to be measured explicitly to direct collective effort towards the goal of Vision 2030. Indeed, when you look at the World Economic Forum's report on competitiveness, the top 20 countries in the world have a global competitiveness score of above 77% as the last year. And they're not staying still, 77%. Jamaica scored 58%. And despite improving by 0.5%, we fell one place from 78 out of 140 countries to 79. We know from the report that innovation is at the heart of where we need to improve. The report makes it clear that innovation is especially critical as a driver of productivity, growth, and value creation. And the report defines innovation as the conversion, the generation and conversion of ideas and inventions into saleable goods and services. So it doesn't just stop with research and development. It's generating value from it. There is good news in that a recent survey, global survey conducted by Deloitte, revealed that a large majority of companies across the world are not ready to renew their business models or embrace the technologies associated with the fourth industrial revolution. And what this means is that if we can step up our game, we have an opportunity to boost our competitiveness towards Vision 2030 somewhat ahead of the pack. However, it requires all hands on deck. It's not just about government. It's also about the private sector and every other stakeholder.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this: no more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, Fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and people say, what are you going to be? The parents will say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands!
Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
So the University of the West Indies, as you know, builds itself on teaching, research, and outreach. The outreach component means we need to find the connection with our communities around. We're built on a AAA access strategy, so it's access, alignment, and agility. Alignment is perhaps the one that's at play here today, where the research and the teaching of the university needs to align itself with public and private sector so that we can get the right questions and the right answers to the right places. It's very important. The university could do all the research it wishes. If it doesn't get that research into the hands of the decision makers or those who are making the plans for the country, then we may not be doing the best for our country. So we want to focus that by taking the research to the places that need the research done. We would like the UWI to become the research engine of every business that wants research done, rather than create their own research and development platforms. Why not ask the University of the West Indies, can we do the research on their behalf? So for me, this is a fantastic opportunity to meet the public and private sector, to offer what the university has in terms of research, so they can lean on us and we can get the questions that they want.
In terms of digital itself, we have even announced that we're going digital. Simple thing like in business cards. we stopped printing those. People don't do expense accounts using paper anymore. So we're literally living what we're talking about. And we're making the company agile. We're doing everything digital now. Most of our communication to our consumers is on social media, which is a shift from when I started back then when we only had JBC and the Gleaner. So even current day marketers have to be agile, using the same concepts and discipline, but understanding different ways of reaching the consumers, because the consumers now consume media in a different way. We're preparing students that are going to be able to adapt to the new world. It makes no sense training somebody who in 5 years become redundant. If you think about it, 10 years ago, access to even social media wasn't as pervasive. So therefore it has to be the sort of student who understands the concepts, can adapt, and can learn quickly. And that's where we want to be. Even the way that we teach will have to be looked at. We have to think about, do we build more block and steel buildings, or do we build more social platforms that we can attract students from anywhere in the world, rather than in a classroom at Mona?
As we move further and further into imparting knowledge to the market, especially the financial market, we have to look at how effectively or efficiently we can do it. And one way is to engage with digital technology. You might know that for the stock exchange, in the 1990s, we had issues with how our market was perceived in terms of transparency, in terms of just effectiveness. And what we had to do was to employ technology to ensure that information, data, is properly stored, is properly used in order to effect transactions across the market. And we did that by introducing the Central Securities Depository. Then we moved on, coupled with that, to the trading platform, moving from an outcry to using technology and the digital age to ensure that there was transparency and ease of doing business in the marketplace.
We spoke a lot about what agile leadership means, and I talked about 7 tenets about agile leadership. And to summarize it, it really boils down to people. We talk a lot about disruption, a lot about technology, but one thing that this technology and disruption has common is that it democratizes for everyone and gives access to anyone with a good idea to make that idea a reality. And I think that's the fundamental takeaway. It's all about people, it's all about ideas, and how do you get that done? And I think when you take that principle and think about next 10 years, we're looking at the 2030 where someone who can compete individually with an organization can actually do that, because technology is going to be extremely cheap and available to anybody in the world. That's the democratization part of technology. So technology will be very pervasive, and for those individuals that can understand and know how to use it, it's going to make them a competitor to an organization with large assets. And that's, I think, very important for Jamaica to think about what that means, because Jamaica is obviously a country with a lot of investments and income coming from tourism, less about exports and less about technology. But now, if you think about the next 10 years, you have an opportunity to leapfrog. Because if you invest, for example, in the education and training of the individuals that can take the technology and use it to make something concrete and a result happen, I think Jamaica can make a huge progress over the next 10 years and really compete with the giants of the world. Because when we think about 2030, we're going to be looking at much smaller entities that are creative and can get to a result. And irrespective of where they are, as long as they're connected to the cloud and the internet, and at this point everybody is connected, you can compete with anyone in the world. So I think strategically, I would invest in innovation and training and education of the next generation. Invest in people with ideas and allow them to learn and advance and find how they can actually take an idea and bring it to reality. So the skill sets that are needed for that is creativity, digital fluency, being able to work with technologies, and project management is a major one, and of course we advocate for it because the project discipline is all about how do I take an idea and bring it to result as fast as possible. So those, and then critical thinking, of course, the fifth level. So if Jamaica invests in that over the next 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, I think that will become a huge asset for the country to be more competitive in the global space.
How does one move from the idea to actualization in a place like Jamaica?
Excellent question. So for an entrepreneur to compete in the global space, one now has the ability to tap into those big platforms that exist. So for example, Alibaba, Amazon, Etsy, there are so many platforms. So you don't have to recreate that. All you have to create is what is my value proposition using those platforms and really focus on that, right? As an entrepreneur, the opportunity is how do I manage, organize myself to be participant of those platforms, and how do I then connect the value that I can deliver through those platforms to global customer base using the resources that I have available to me in Jamaica. If an entrepreneur focuses just on that question and starts creatively brainstorming, I think the answers will come, and that's all they have to do. I think what is really important to consider is we need to believe in ourselves, and we need to invest in ourselves, because none of us have learned this in school. When I graduated, frankly, I'm going to age myself, I'm 48. It's many, many years ago, and nobody taught me the skills that I have today to be able to compete in today's world. So similarly, one takeaway is how do I invest in myself? And the resources are vast. The resources that organizations such as PMI provides is very, very cheap, sometimes free. There are other resources like Khan Academy, etc. So use those resources and educate yourself and invest in yourself. That's the fundamental competitive advantage that one can create for him or herself in this world.
The business community has suffered tremendously due to extortion. Some have not just lost their businesses, their jobs, but lost their lives. This is extremely impactful to the growth of our country and to the progress of our people. We are our brother's keeper. Let's put a stop to this. No more use of force. No more use of fear. No more extortion. No more.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love.